The turning radius on some of those is just making sure that emergency vehicles and school buses can still get through there when you're narrowing the width of that entrance to the next street, to just be mindful of that. I know we've had some issues on other streets or other projects where it's narrowed a little bit more than we would like it to. And if you are encroaching at all on an existing travel lane, just make sure that your striping plans reflect that. So if you have to taper down to a single lane in any place, just make sure that you have that available as well. And then I noticed on the plans that there are catch basins that are supposed to remain in, I can't remember if it's either the neutral ground or the bump outs. So my concern there would be, how are you going to prevent any additional settlement from getting into the catch basins than we're already receiving? We all know that the catch basin guards that we have now, the mouth is very wide and it allows a lot of debris and sediment and everything else to enter. So if you have it at the bottom of your rain garden, I would consider putting some sort of trash grate or something along that line to just prevent further clogging a system that we are already struggling with. So those are my two big things.
Yes, those are two very good comments. I can't recall the details for the catch basins and the bump outs, but I think we have addressed that.
Okay.
We're happy to talk about that more. And for the turning radii on the bump outs, we've run auto turn through there to check to make sure that the wheel paths don't run over curbs.
Okay, perfect. Otherwise, I'm looking forward to it. I'll see the 100% plans and make sure I don't have any comments on those. I don't think I will at this point, though. Thanks, guys.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Megan. So hazard mitigation, Austin?
Thanks, Mary, and thanks, Will, for the presentation. This is a great project. I feel like you know, we've seen it come along in its development. I don't have too many comments of substance or that would probably require a lot of you know, sharpening of pencils or revision at this point. I really like the inclusion of the adult exercise spaces and the parks and the playgrounds in general, just the repurposing of not an empty space, but a space that wasn't doing a lot. I think that there's a lot of sort of best practices and hopefully lessons learned that will come through the implementation of this project. And I know that Mary and her team are making note of that and thinking about how we can scale this up. I look forward to talking about that more in a couple of weeks in the context of hazard mitigation planning. It's great to see that this project stands on its own 2 feet, even if we disregard the flood reduction benefits. I think that there's a lot of good things about this, even if those, you know, even if sort of the social benefits are harder to quantify. I think that y'all have done a really good job in packing that into this. I would love to see in the graphic that you showed about transportation connectivity. It might have been on the image, but I wasn't sure if you were showing the connections to the rest of like the MOVE, NOLA, or transportation plans. But you know, it's great if we connect intra-neighborhood, but it would be nice to see sort of those planned connections to the rest of the city as well. Otherwise, you know, good work, and I think that's all from me.
Thank you. So selfishly, I live very close to West End Boulevard, and there's a nice big neutral ground there. And so if the city wants to put something like this there, I'll be all for it. And so.
Yeah, I'm on St. Rock, and we could use some of those adult exercise equipment as well in my spot.
So before we move on to Sewage and Water Board and then City Planning Commission, I just want to remind all of the residents that joined us that if you have questions or comments, you can type them into the chat We'll go through those at the end of all the presentations. And you can also text any questions that you have or comments to 504-941-0048. Sewage and Water Board?
Hi, this is Cameron. So we've made extensive comments on the 60%. And so we'll be looking forward to looking at this 90% a little closer and going street by street like we've done in the past, and to see exactly what you have done as far as our 60% concerns came up. But, you know, good job. This is a huge project. There's so much detail. I mean, it takes us hours and hours just to review what you give us. Myself and Kyle, I'm speaking for Kyle. But we're just looking forward to what you finally give us. And we have looked at every single street, every single component, send you back your details that you need. So we're looking forward to see what the changes that you've made. And along the lines of the trash and the grates, those are something that kind of sticks right off the bat for me. Looking to see what type of design that you're gonna have. You've provided something a little bit different for us. But thanks, and we're looking forward to reviewing the 90%.
Great, and I appreciate your very detailed comments at the 6% stage, and hopefully we address them. And you know, as always, if you guys want to have a meeting, we're happy to walk through everything, you know, really in specifics.
Thanks again. I don't know if Kyle's on. I know I've been texting with Kyle, so I probably spoke for him also, so he probably doesn't need to speak also. Kyle's the engineer at Sewage and Water Board that's working with me, being the landscape architect on this project for these guys, so I just wanted to introduce him also.
No, you said everything. Thanks.
Thank you, Kyle and Cameron. Travis?
Yeah, thanks, Will, for your work on this and for the presentation. I'm particularly excited about the bike lanes and bike infrastructure that will be installed, and I wanted to make sure y'all are planning to provide bike parking spaces at all the destinations you're creating and near transit stops if possible. And also exit stations and other bike infrastructure that can promote the active modes of transportation that we're going for with this. I was also wondering if y'all had been working with RTA to upgrade the transit stops along the route. That's just kind of a general question that I hope is true.
We've been in touch with RTA to talk about the existing bus stops that are along there and make sure the project works well with that. We're not impacting, or we're not doing very much work in the areas where there is a bus stop. Most of those are along Elysian Fields, and most of our work along Elysian Fields is within the neutral ground. But yeah, we've tried to make the two, or make it symbiotic with that.
Yeah, and integrating the transit stops with the bike paths that you're proposing along the curb, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great comment, Travis. We do work with the Mayor's Office of Transportation as the liaison to RTA. So yes, thank you very much for that. Before we move on to the next presentation, are there any comments from any of our state and federal partners? I think most of them dropped off after City Park, but just putting a last call out there. All right, well, continuing on with the theme of, you know, how many different funding streams does the city leverage in order to bring benefits to residents? So our next project that is going to be presented by Sewage and Water Board.
Mary, I don't mean to interrupt you. I think, did you need to ask for a motion for the...
Oh, you're so right. Thank you. It's been a long day. Yes, so before we move on to Sewage and Water Board, can I get a motion to move this project to 100%, assuming that all comments mentioned tonight are addressed in the design?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Danny. Do I get a second?
Second it.
Thank you. So moved. We'll move this on. So next we'll have Sewage and Water Board. Yeah, next we'll have Sewage and Water Board. And this project, Cameron, it's a little bit different in the funding stream, and it actually relates to a consent decree with the EPA. Is that right?
That is correct. Would you like me to get started? You want to have a little bit more to say, Mary?
No, not at all. Take it away.
Okay, well, first, thanks to RDRC for allowing Sewage and Water Board to have our current green infrastructure project be presented to the public at this meeting. A little background on Sewage and Water Board's Green Infrastructure Program. Besides green infrastructure being a component of our municipal separate stormwater sewer system, our MS4 permit, under the third modified consent decree, as Mary has already alluded to, Sewage and Water Board agreed to dedicate $2.5 million to be used for green infrastructure projects. To date, we have dedicated approximately $2.3 million. And this takes us to our current project, the Paul Haben Charter School Educational Stormwater Center. This particular project, we awarded this project to Specklin Mossop Michaels. It's costing us around $376,000. And to get started on the presentation of the project, I would like to introduce the design team. Emily Bullock, is a principal landscape architect who has been with Specklin Mossop Michaels for 9 years. And Jane Satterley is an associate landscape architect who has been with Specklin Mossop Michaels for 4 years. And I'd just like to give a shout out to both of them because they have both attended my alma mater, LSU, for landscape architecture. So with that said, take it away, Emily.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to make this quick tonight because I know we're coming up on the end of our time. I also want to give just a little bit of background because Specklin Mossop Michaels has been working with Paul Haven's charter school for a long time now. So I want to give a little bit of context. Back in 2017, we worked with the Trust for Public Land and Paul Haven's charter school on a master plan for their campus. If you go to the next slide. Because unlike many charter schools in New Orleans, they actually have an incredibly large campus. They have about 5 acres of property that the school's on. And they're in a flood-prone area. And so we worked with the Trust for Public Land. We did a 7-week engagement program with students at the school to design the master plan for the whole campus, as well as to design and build a first phase that was fully funded by the Trust for Public Land that included a playground and green infrastructure. So if you go to the next slide, this was one of the students' design for the master plan that led to our final design. If you go into the next one. And so you can see this was the result of the master planning process. We interviewed students, we did workshops and drawing exercises with students. We engaged staff of the as well as teachers and administrators. And so we came up with this master plan for them. And then you'll see right here in the middle, sort of a courtyard area of the school, that was the phase 1 part of the project. So the project that we're going to talk about tonight sort of is this educational stormwater center in the bottom left-hand part of the screen. And that was conceptualized during this master planning process. So phase 1 was also designed and built in 2017. Again, we engaged students in stormwater management and in thinking about playground design. We talked about what is a plan drawing, what is an elevation drawing, what do landscape architects do, why does New Orleans flood the way it does. We covered a wide range of topics. This was one of the students' designs for the playground. And then if you go to the next slide, these are the types of things we heard from them that they wanted to see. These are a few before images of the campus from the phase 1 area. So you can see the site held quite a bit of water, and you can sort of flip through this. This is a sunny day, a couple days after rain, but it still holds a lot of water. This is a before image, and then this is the after image of the playground with some rain gardens. And then next slide. These are the rain gardens sort of on both sides of the courtyard that the playground drains into to help keep this area dry so that after it rains, students can come out here and play on the playground. We also incorporated some signage to just help explain how the systems work. And then if you go to the next slide, that brings us to why we're here tonight. So this is our site. This was back in 2018. So after we had done the master plan, but before we had applied to the Sewage and Water Board for funding for this project. So I mean, this is our project site after one of those severe rains that we had in 2018 that I'm sure you can all recall. Quite a bit of flooding in this area, and really confirmed our need for managing more stormwater on this site. So this is the phase of the project that we are working on as part of we took this piece of the master plan and we packaged it up and we applied to the Sewage and Water Board for funding through their Green Infrastructure Grant Program, and we were successful in winning that. And so this is the portion that is being permitted right now and hopefully will be built here very shortly. But it includes, the concept behind this is that it will be open to not just the students and the teachers at Paul Havens Charter School, but also to the other schools in the Crescent City Schools network, to be able to come and visit this site to learn about native plants, to learn about stormwater management, to learn about environmental sciences and biology, and really use this site as an educational, not only outdoor classroom, but a living laboratory. Crescent City Schools and Paul Havens have also reached out to other charter management organizations in the city and invited them to use this site. So we're really hoping that this becomes a community educational resource in the city. So this is a little diagram that shows how we're managing the water on this site. So there are a bunch of downspouts that come off of the building here, and they're going to go into we're going to disconnect them from their drains. We're going to run them into a swale that will convey them into our first stormwater rain garden, which is a slightly more coastal prairie mix of planting. It will then run under that boardwalk into our larger, what we're calling rain garden type 2, or our other larger BMP, which will be a typical Louisiana wetland planting. We've designed a little upland mound in our rain garden to exaggerate the change in elevation, because this is we live in a flat landscape, but also when you go to visit swamps, you tend to have these middens or higher areas. So we're trying to create that in this mini ecosystem as well. So there's a walking path around so that you can experience it from all angles. We have a little deck area where you can gather with a group the size of a class, for example. There will be a little maintenance port there so they can pop off that lid and sample stormwater as it's leaving the BMPs to do testing on the stormwater quality, as part of their curriculum. And then we're also, so part of the sustainability of this site that we're trying to incorporate as well is that we didn't want to haul off any dirt that we're digging up to excavate for our BMPs. So we're using those to create some earthwork mounds that again are elements for fun and play, but also, a classroom could sit on them, sort of amphitheater style. And then we're also taking down a couple of trees that are in not great condition on this site, and we're intending to keep that wood on site and artfully arrange those in our BMPs to create sort of some habitat for creatures and birds and things in our BMPs, and also enhance that experience and richness and detail of this educational, mini ecosystem that we're creating. So these are just the status of sort of our detailed plans. If you want to flip through the next ones, we're getting very close to construction here. We're wrapping up our permitting process right now, and should, fingers crossed, have that resolved by next week so that we can, the next phases of this project will be to start construction, hopefully as soon as we get a permit, and have construction wrapped up this fall so that we can do planting, at the end of October, early November. We're also partnering with Sol NOLA on this. They'll be contributing the trees for the project, and so we're hoping to be able to do a school community planting day to install those trees and have everyone be invested in, in the construction of the project as well. Another feature that I'll just mention for this group is that we're really working with the existing drainage infrastructure on the site. So that did limit the depth that we were able to work with our VMPs. But I think we're still holding about, I want to say 12,000 cubic feet of stormwater. So it's quite a bit. The phase 1 implementation we did was about 2,200 cubic feet of water. And through the master plan, there's still quite a bit of space and more stormwater that can be managed on this school campus, using different approaches. So I will leave it right there and let, unless Cameron, you have anything to add, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that. I just have a few things. I wrote this down. I wasn't actually planning on speaking after this, but I do want to say that I'm really excited about this project because it's given us a huge opportunity to capitalize on determining efficacy of green infrastructure. What we're adding to this site on our own separately, we're adding a rain gauge, a soil moisture sensor, and a flow meter. Because there is one area where all of the water is going to be captured and somehow leave that site through one pipe that goes into the street in the storm drain. So, and all three of those things I just mentioned, we're going to add telemetry capabilities to that, and we're planning on putting that on a website so the kids can actually go to the website and take a look to see when it's raining, how much rain is happening at that site. And we're also going to be collecting water quality data, and that's part of our plan to collect the water quality data before the construction, during the construction, and after the construction. The same water quality data that we have to actually submit to EPA, we plan on collecting that. So this site is really starting to have all different components that we're very excited about. And the other thing I'm excited about, I know that maybe Emily is not as excited as me, but I actually made them go through the system where they had to get a design review, where they had to get a stormwater plan approved by the city, and then finally get their building permit. This is different than most projects that the city puts on. They normally don't have to go through these extra steps, but I did that because I wanted to see how all this fits together, and so we can see that whole process go through. So I'm really happy this project has gone through every single step that the general public will have to go through if they were having to put something like this on. So thanks a lot for hanging in there. We're real close. I think we got the design review finished. I think the stormwater got approved also, so we're just waiting on the building permit to be approved by that section, and we should start seeing some movement. So thanks a lot. Appreciate your time too. And Mary, thank you so much for allowing us to have this, because we wouldn't be able to do any public outreach without this component right here. So thanks again.
Thank you, Cameron. This is super exciting. And, I love that you're showing, that a space can be both a play space, a functional place, and also stormwater storage. That's really the strategy or the heart of the Gentilly Resilience District, that everything is water and education, water and recreation. And I love to see that y'all are doing the same. As was noted in the RDRC invite for the members, this was an information only presentation. The RDRC does not have to approve it to move on to the next phase, but if there are any members of the committee, I'm sure that Cameron and Emily would love to have your comments. So we'll start with DPW. Parks and Parkway.
Off, Mary.
Oh, hey, sorry.
No, I was saying I think Megan may have dropped off.
That makes sense. Parks and Parkways.
Yeah, I just want to say that we've kind of already been working with them on this project, and so anything that we had before, that they've already resolved all those issues. So it looks really good. I went to the opening of the first phase, and I'm very excited about the second phase. So
Hazard mitigation.
Hey folks, Cameron and team, thanks for the presentation. This is the first time I've heard about this project, but it seems like a really cool project. Cameron, you answered some questions that were burning on my mind about monitoring and data management. It's really cool to see that you guys are integrating some scientific measurements into what you're doing. And I'd love to, have that data. I'd also love to, look forward to seeing how that's going to be built out in the educational curriculum around that. It's wonderful to see, a stormwater project being integrated on a school site with some planning and thought being given to educational programming. At our hazard mitigation planning meeting last night, we did a quick survey of the 60, 70 or odd attendants, and the majority felt like most New Orleanians do not have a good understanding of the natural hazards and risks that we face. So to the extent that we can, build out these projects that achieve our flood reduction goals at the same time as thinking about how we message that, how we educate the next generation about that, is great to see. And the last thing I'll say is that I really enjoyed hearing about the school master planning project. We've been doing a lot of thinking about how we do public outreach since we've all been forced into this virtual meeting format and having to kind of rethink and re-experience how we get together and solicit public comment on the work that we do. So that was, I think, a really exemplary case of a job well done. So I'll close with that.
Thank you, Austin. And so Nord C, what did you think about what Emily said about how the school campus will be open to other schools? And that's a really cool idea about the kids being able to monitor how the water is coming into the soil. You have any comments, Edgar?
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful Cameron team. I think Austin stole some of my thunder. I think it's a wonderful project. I had little knowledge of this project. I must tell you, I've been very educated today. The stormwater movement has caught us, just took us to a whole nother level. I'm one of those New Orleanians that have no idea what we're facing on a daily basis in terms of mitigation of the stormwater. But I'm really proud to see the young kids being engaged and being educated, and hopefully lead us into a better future. Thank you all.
Mary,
Thank you, Edgar.
Mary, if I could jump in for a
Yeah,
second. There's one thing that was left out, actually. It's not only open to schools, and that's part of that program, but there is going to be a time period for beginning during the day. I think it's after school for a certain amount of hours that the gate actually is going to be open to the general public in that area to be able to go into that space. That's why the fencing is the way it's set up, so that the general public could come into that space after school in the evening time, and actually there will be more educational signage for people to come into that space and read about it too. Is that correct, Emily?
Yes, that's correct.
Great addition. And last but not least, Travis with City Planning.
Yeah, great project, obviously. Shout out to Cameron and Sewage and Water Board for funding this and pushing it through. I know these projects have been years in the making, so good job getting it done. And I was gonna ask about if it was open to the general public. That's cool. So I saw those gates and I was like, oh, that's a bummer that the neighborhood can't experience and learn from the project. So that's super awesome. Thank y'all.
Yeah, it seems like these guys thought about everything, and we got 3 proposals in for this particular grant that award. I can't say grant, award, and this happened to be the stellar one at the time, and we are in that process of almost ready to dig some dirt. So I'm looking forward to that.
So exciting. So as promised, now that we've had the 3 presentations, we would like to open up the floor to questions and comments from the public. I didn't have any questions come in on text. Natalie, I didn't see any questions come in on chat.
No.
So I'd like to invite the members of the public that stalwarts that are still with us. If you'd like to unmute yourself and ask a question or make a comment at this time, it'll be recorded. All right, well, we'll adjourn this meeting of the RDRC. I'd like to thank the committee members for their time and their diligence. I'd like to thank our presenters, very detailed, very talented. Thank you, Cameron, for bringing this, to us so that we can continue to make these connections across departments and across agencies and just enhance the services that we can bring to the residents. So thank everyone. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, and I just want to leave with, I think my dog actually wanted to chime in as well and make sure that these are dog-friendly green spaces as well, since he's been making his presence known throughout the meeting. I apologize.
Duly noted for the record.
Everyone have a wonderful evening. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks again, Mary and Emily.